related to the email in question, as well as the meeting invite in question. The computer was forensically imaged. And we also received log files from Office 365 from the IT department here to supplement that as well. The summary of findings on page 4, I mean, really spells it out. We know based on artifacts that the shared computer had a Outlook OST file on that related to the Hathaway account. We know that existed on that machine as far back as April 5th of 2023 and up until November 15th of 2023. That when we received the shared computer and forensically imaged it, the Outlook OST file was not present on that computer.
OST?
Think about it as just a email container. All the emails are, it's one file, but all the emails are contained inside it.
Does that include calendar invites?
Yeah, that's everything.
Okay.
Yep, for the Outlook environment.
For that user?
Yes, correctly. When we inquired as to what happened to that OST file, we were informed that on the date of the person logging into the shared computer, that the IT person realized that there was a user's OST file on a shared computer and it was deleted at that time. Which explains why we didn't see it when it was forensically imaged, but we know that it was there. We know that the Outlook account that did exist, the Hathaway Outlook account that did exist on that computer was accessed on November 15th. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was roughly around 6:04 p.m. And that's through additional artifacts that were found on the computer. So we know that Outlook account using the Outlook desktop application was accessed and was open.
Would you mind if we ask questions throughout, or do you want us to wait?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. What do you mean by accessed exactly?
The Outlook application was open.
The application was opened.
The Outlook program was run, correct.
Okay.
Yep. We can see from the Office 365 logs that an email was sent. That is present in the Office 365 logs. So we know an email was sent from his account at roughly that same exact time. When we looked for anything related to the meeting invite, we didn't find anything. There was nothing on the computer. The OST file was gone, so we couldn't look inside there. And when we looked at the logs that were available from Office 365, there was nothing in those logs that indicated anything related to a meeting invite being sent. The logs, there are Microsoft Office 365 has extensive logging, all sorts of logs available. Other logs are only available based on certain licensing. And to get more logging, you have to have higher licensing. There's also certain logs have retention periods that are shorter, some are longer. The logs that potentially would have shown that being sent, it just weren't available to us. So it doesn't mean it wasn't sent. I'm not implying that at all. It just means I can't, based on the artifacts we had presented to us and the logs that were available, we just don't see a record of it.
So that may have been in the .ost file? Is that
Correct.
okay?
Yeah, it's
not to try to get
most likely, yeah, it could have come from the .ost, or it could have been sent from the Outlook application on the shared laptop. There's just no, in the logging that was available to us in Office 365, there was no record of it in the logs that were available. And with the OST file being gone, there was no way for us to check inside the OST file.
Well, wouldn't there be an OST file for the email account, no matter where it was logged in?
No. No, the OST file is when you are using the Outlook application, the program, there's many ways to access your email.
The web.
Right, you can go through a web browser, your mobile phone accesses Office 365 differently. And then the other way is the Outlook application. And what the Outlook application does is it creates the OST file, which is what allows the syncing back and forth between the computer and your email account at Microsoft. So everything gets synced back and forth, and there's a the emails are duplicated down here as well as up there.
So what type of file has for a township user, right? When we send tons of emails and calendar invites. Let's say a township user is logged into multiple devices at once. What file records all activity for that township user's account?
You probably, to start with, you probably look at something internal, outside of Microsoft Office 365. There are a variety of auditing and logging tools that are available that could be deployed inside this environment. We didn't look at inside the environment, so I don't know what you have or don't have here. But there is, for just about anything you want to audit, track, or log, there is a tool available.
Sure. Because we, it's outside the scope of this report, but we, obviously retain everything that we send. Through technology for 7 years we're required to.
Yep. And again, we're looking at, the log files at Office 365, not anything that was available to us potentially from inside the township. The fundamental question was that based on the limited artifacts from the shared computer, based on the limited logging that we had available to us from Office 365, there was no way for us to definitively determine exactly what happened. We know that what we were told from the township, that a person accessed that computer at roughly 6 p.m. November 15th. All of that was corroborated by the logs. So, but exactly how that happened with the OST file being gone and everything, there was no way to definitively say.
Is there any way now at this time to determine it? What additional information would you need?
No, there's really no way. The OST file's gone. It was deleted. The logs that would have been available are already overwritten at Microsoft. And the other logs that could have potentially helped, you just didn't have because of your licensing.
So when I think this is what you're referencing, but I want to confirm, you list this in section 9 as a type of investigative encumbrance. My understanding that one of the encumbrances was that you were provided only specific 0365 logs from the week.
Yeah, that was available, correct.
But you were not provided access to the township's 0365 environment?
Correct. The logs from your environment were provided to us. So what that is saying is we didn't have access directly with the environment, so we didn't pull the logs. That's really what that's saying. The logs were pulled by the IT person here and then sent to us.
Had you needed more logs pulled, you would have asked us for them, I assume?
We did, and we know that some of the logs, had already overwritten because they were only, we didn't get the computer. We weren't engaged until I'm thinking it was like 4 months after the incident, after the email incident. Some of the logs have already overwritten because they overwrote 90 days.
And that
So
in all likelihood is kind of driven by whatever terms we have in our agreement with Microsoft, I presume.
it's, yeah, there, it's your configuration, it's what's licensing you have available. Some of the licensing, you only get it for 90 days.
So what about backups? Like, do we do backups, periodic backups? And could you have looked at a backup to try to get the stuff that on page 8, number 9, investigative encompasses? Might that have helped you get to the bottom of it or more?
If the township was actually backing up the logs from Microsoft Office 365 for your tenant, obviously those logs would have been available to us. That would be a significant undertaking to do
To back them
and
up or to you to go through?
no, to back them up. I mean, it can be done. There's companies that actually do it.
Are you aware of if we have?
I am not. I'm not aware. I don't believe so, but I would have to check. There's your answer.
Okay, so we don't.
And then the other backup that you were referencing would be a backup of the actual end user workstations. Which could be done, but unless that machine was backed up, there would be no backup, so. we
And that would
couldn't-
be only for township issued end user machines.
Right. Most townships only back up the servers and the data, not the end user workstations because of the cost.
So I have some questions, but I don't wanna interrupt
Go.
other people. So going forward, how do we not do this again? How does this accident not happen again? And, I see on page 8, security recommendations. In your conversations with our IT folks, Chris, are we where we need to be with respect to shared credentials and uninstalling the desktop applications and recording multi-factor and all those recommendations that you've laid out for us on page 8?
I don't know where you're at since we issued that report. Clearly if you roll everything back, the most logical answer, there's obviously anybody could argue that it could have happened this way, it could have happened that way. Without the artifacts that to definitively map it out, no one can say for certain this is exactly how it happened, right? If you take the most logical, plausible answer, it's like we've got the employee stating that she accessed the shared computer on this day at roughly this time. And we have artifacts from Microsoft 365 showing that the email in question was sent, not just the email.
Oh,
The email in question was sent on that day at almost exactly the same time she claims to have logged into the computer. And from the logs, that email was sent from a computer that had the Outlook application. So we know it didn't come from a web browser. We know it didn't come from a mobile device. It came from a computer with the Outlook application on it.
so tell me more about how do we know it came from we know it came from a device with the Outlook application.
Correct.
That's
Okay.
not true.
How do we know
There
that?
are other mail transport clients that will give the same signature.
I'm asking follow-up based on your, how do,
Microsoft logs the client that is putting in the request to it.
But it
Where-
could be another
where-
client.
where-
And
Well-
wait, please.
no, I'm just trying to get clear because I'm not
Well,
a,
No, to take his question.
there's a major thing missing here. You haven't allowed me to talk.
Well, yes, you have an opportunity to talk later, not now.
so,
You know what? There was an email sent to you the next day at 8:59 AM telling you that we'd launched Outlook on that computer. That's never been denied.
And
So why
please wait.
are you not bringing this up, Will?
Please wait.
And the email will be forwarded to the rest of the board that I sent to you in good faith to try and help
The
you.
purpose of this meeting is to hear from
But
the
there's nothing,
consultant and
there's
for us to
nothing
ask questions.
revolutionary here that you didn't already know. You were told that that email client was launched.
Ian, this is not the time.
It is the time. So
It is the time, because otherwise it's a bunch of bullshit.
You have an opportunity later in this meeting to speak. Please
My
wait.
name is on these reports, so you better damn believe that I'm gonna sit here and defend myself and Jillian until the day I take my last breath, Will Hathaway. You were sent an email in which I stated that we launched your email, and I did the damnedest to save your ass by getting rid of your profile on that computer.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay, so don't sit there,
Please
listen
wait.
to this, and pretend.
I'm not
But
pretending
it's-
anything. I'm just waiting for you
It's
to stop.
suddenly amazing that Outlook got launched on that computer.
stop
And you
disrupting
deny
the
me my
meeting.
First Amendment rights to talk in a public meeting.
Please stop disrupting the meeting. There is a time for you to speak and it's not now.
And you squashed me to 3 minutes, which gives me absolutely no opportunity to defend anything. This report tells you nothing beyond what that email at 8:59 on the 16th of November, the very day after this incident happened, before any of this email gate was known to anybody, you received an email from me saying, hey, Will, there's a big problem. Your email was on that public computer in a desktop client. This is a disaster. I've cleaned it up for you. There's nothing here that this gentleman is saying that hasn't already been disclosed to you.
And Ian, I agree with you. And I've seen your email and I apologize on behalf of the township.
Damn right, because I've wasted a hell of a lot of time defending this. So you might, I'm sorry if I'm a little bit pissed, but this is a
Every right to
complete
be.
and utter waste of taxpayer money. If you actually knew how to use the computer, Will, we wouldn't be sitting here.
I do wanna,
If you knew how to use the computer, Will, and you understood this technology, and by the way, this gentleman
Sir,
hasn't even started.
You have the right to participate in an open meeting. You do not have the right to disturb the peace. You please wait until you get an opportunity to speak. The board has asked this gentleman to come and talk about his report. That's
No
it.
disrespect to the gentleman, but he obviously didn't have all the facts, did he, when he wrote this report?
He's here just to talk about the report. So,
Without
so
facts.
please, sir, please.
Okay,
I don't want to ask you to leave because I don't think that would be good for anyone, but you are disrupting.
Please proceed.
so,
I think trustee Riser was asking
Okay.
questions.
I had a question and it had to do with, I don't know, if it's an investigation encumbrances or the data that you had to analyze and there were a couple people at that meeting, where it was sent. Did you interview those people? Like, did you talk to Mr. Huber?
there were no interviews.
No interviews whatsoever.
This is not a
I'm
question for
asking
you.
this gentleman.
No, we were not engaged in that.
Did you have access to emails that were sent out supplemental to this?
Oh, no,
And
no.
if you were to have had that or to have talked to them, would that have, I don't know.
That's not a
What-
fair
what-
question.
Or what role might that have had? And is it too late to ask you to do that and prepare a supplemental report or is that not? Listen, I'm trying to work with you and I really am here.
Well, criminal investigation, right, John?
I mean, if you're asking me my personal opinion,
Yes.
and because we do not have all the facts, right? We don't have enough artifacts to definitively determine anything. Based on what I've seen so far, and it is the most logical, is that email did come from that shared computer and from that Outlook account. And therefore, the fundamental, if you say, what's the underlying fundamental problem that caused all this from happening, right? And it would be, you had an Outlook account, somebody's Outlook account on a shared laptop or computer, and that should never happen.
I could,
Let's let John finish. Are you finished?
No. So would you agree that without talking to people, you can't put context to it? You can just say what happened.
Well,
John, he can only say what he
we're a digital forensic firm. So we deal in technology and the artifacts and the facts, right? So I'm not, interviewing somebody and them saying X, Y, or Z, unless I can find the digital evidence and the proof, doesn't really help me.
I mean, to be fair to the firm, you were asked to do what you did and you did a good job. Okay, I have questions about your report.
Sure.
All right. In assumptions, section 3 states in number 7,
Which page, yes, please?
it's section 3 called
one.
assumptions. I
Thank you.
don't have a page number for you.
Page one.
Okay. It says that the township has an IP address used for public Wi-Fi connections. I want to confirm, and until there was the network refresh, which Chris has been working on. This is the IP address that we all use for all Wi-Fi in and around the building.
Yes, I would say it a little differently,
Please.
but yes, I mean, that IP address is your external IP address. Okay, so all traffic that is coming from, and we confirm that IP address is associated, we asked IT, and it is associated with your Wi-Fi connection. So anybody who's on your Wi-Fi that is surfing the net or doing anything with the internet, from the outside, everything gets logged under that single IP address.
Gotcha.
Right? So when you connect to the Wi-Fi inside here, you get an internal IP address that's only usable inside here. When you go out to the internet, it nats it and you get that IP address.
When you say inside here, you mean like hardwired?
No,
What do you mean
any
inside?
inside your network.
So like
On the private side of your network, you have the public side and you have the private side.
So my understanding is we always had one Wi-Fi,
You have one Wi-Fi, correct?
one IP.
One external IP.
Okay, so if I, like, up until recently, if I hop on this computer, I'm using that Wi-Fi. If I'm on my phone in the parking lot, I'm using that
If
Wi-Fi.
you're connected to it, yes.
Yep. That's all the same IP address? Would it be?
Microsoft sees it, all of your traffic coming from that one IP address.
Gotcha. Thank
Okay?
you for explaining it. Yeah,
For internal purposes, each device has its own internal IP address.
even personal devices?
If you connect to the Wi-Fi, that connection, you get something unique to identify you on this Wi-Fi network.
Got it. Thank you.
On page, is that 4? Way in the back. Second page from last. Exhibit D. So you see the IP address down the middle,
Yes,
and then you see, okay, the very top is, November 14th at 21:15:42. So that's what,
that's UTC time too.
yeah, so,
You gotta do,
oh,
you gotta do the math.
okay, well, then I'm
That's
not gonna
state
do
math.
that. Okay, and it says Mac OS, so I'm assuming that's a Mac computer.
Correct.
Okay, and
That's
then,
what it was, that's what Microsoft saw the device at doing whatever.
okay, so there, but there's the IP address is the same. So is that for if we log in to our Outlook, let's say at home, is it going to log into with this IP address?
No,
It has to be in the building. Okay,
Or near,
but
near the Wi-Fi.
so this IP is for internal or external? Or are we confusing? Is it?
it's just, I'm assuming, because I haven't done anything on inside your network, right? So I'm making some assumptions here, but it'd be tough to have your network function otherwise. There are what's called private IP addresses that are meant to be used inside for any company, right? So my company, we have all of our devices, whether it's a computer, a laptop, a server, whatever, every device gets an IP address. And it's a private IP address. Ours happens to be like 10.10. I'm not gonna give you the rest. And that IP address is not routable on the internet, right? So when your traffic hits probably your firewall or whatever your perimeter device is, there's what's called natting. And so your traffic is sent out on the internet. But everybody on the internet, Microsoft, when they log it, they see it all coming from 115. When your request comes back, the natting reverses and it goes to your machine. So it's a translation, right? Because those private IPs inside your environment can't traverse outside. So Microsoft is seeing all of your traffic coming from 115. For me, like, because I travel all over the country. So if we were to pull the logs, our Microsoft Office 365 logs, you would see me connecting an activity coming from my office, as well as if I connected to an IP address somewhere in the other parts of the country, there would be other IP addresses listed for me.
Follow-up question on Exhibit D. Could you couple questions. First, define sign-in event for us. Exactly what does sign-on event mean?
That is somebody actually signing in,
Actually
user ID
say
and password.
User ID, password.
Yep.
And that is different from what you stated before, when you stated that on November 15th, Outlook was accessed, meaning I press Outlook and the program opens.
Yes,
Because I
because
don't see.
Microsoft, right, because Microsoft Outlook has a wonderful little feature called persistence,
Right.
right? And that was one of the reasons why this log is actually important,
Yeah.
because it helps support the hypothesis.
Yeah,
And
it
it is
does.
just a hypothesis because we don't have the facts. But it supports the hypothesis because, yeah, we see logins on the 14th. We see logins on the 16th, nothing on the 15th. We know that Outlook program was run on that computer on the 15th. There's no login because it means it was previously on the machine, already connected, and Microsoft, for convenience, every time you open it, persistence, you stay logged in. So there is no login event because it's already logged in.
And that's what I wanted to confirm. I was understanding that
Right.
there were no sign-in events for November 15th.
Right.
Also related to this, you'll notice on November 14th, lines 2 and 3, the exact same timestamp. Why might that be?
Where are you?
Lines 2 and 3 of Exhibit D, the exact same time and date. Why might that be? Because we see the same thing later in lines 6, 7, 8, where we see.
I would have to go back and look in the logs, but most likely that's a Microsoft logging item. So it may, I don't know if it recorded it twice. But that would be on the Microsoft side.
Okay.
I mean, without looking at the logs further, I couldn't really tell you sitting here.
I am interested in understanding that, maybe at a future point, even Chris. Why we would have, for example, lines 2 and 3, same date and time. Lines 6, 7, and 8, same date and time. I'm curious, because I assume it's a single sign-on, but why is it logging in twice?
And then I can probably find out for you. We weren't interested in that because, again, the important part for us was there was no login event on the 15th.
Right.
So then we had to prove, to hold the hypothesis true, we had to prove that because the Outlook, from our perspective, the Outlook OST file is gone, right? Even though everybody says it was deleted and we understand it was deleted, I gotta understand what happened, not just somebody saying it. So that's when we started digging, and that's when we found out that, oh, wait a minute. This OST file has existed on this computer since April, which then supports supports why we're not seeing a login on the 15th, because if the Outlook program is accessed, persistence, you're automatically still logged in.
So, yeah, and I note that appears in section 7.1. You indicate that Hathaway's email account had been logged into on the shared Dell laptop since at least April 5th, 2023.
Right, and that's just as far back as the log on the shared laptop went.
So presumably it could have been.
Oh, it could have been longer. Right, I don't know when it was installed.
2022, 2021.
Yep.
And presumably it is, just so I'm understanding this sign-on event, is it accurate to say that I'm understanding, let's assume logged on since at least April 5th, 2023 or before. Someone would have to sign on, have one sign-on event in say, April 5th, 2023 or July 2022, and they would stay logged on.
Persistence would have kept it connected.
Okay, so it would have been sign on, and then why would, I'm thinking about my own email too, but for any user, let's say Hathaway email in Exhibit D, what kind of drives the sign-on events, right? You've got multiple sign-on events, you know, on the 14th, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the next day, presumably that might have been our IT director trying to test something. But generally, for a regular email user's account, why do you have multiple? And again, why some on the exact same time and day? Is that,
Without going back and looking at the logs in the detail,
that could be across multiple devices?
oh, it could be across multiple devices, it could be Microsoft, you know. Microsoft has all sorts of AI and heuristics, and if it saw something like, wait a minute, you logged in over here this morning and now you're over here, I want to verify it's you, it might force you to log in again.
Yeah, right, like across devices
Right.
at the same time. Okay, got it.
Other questions?
What did we have questions?
This is under 8.2, review of message trace logs. The third paragraph. Toward the end of that paragraph. This is not the same quote client type as the email with the subject. Quote forward external re-election commission packet is posted. Could you explain that about client type?
The device it came from. Remember, we said Microsoft logs, whether it's coming from Windows or Outlook Web Access is a browser. So that's what the client type is.
And
Can I follow up on that just to make sure I understand? So is that, are you saying that that message, the meeting invitation message that's been referred to was sent from a different computer? Is that what you're saying?
It was sent from a browser.
yeah, so it was sent from, I'm looking at Exhibit E, right? That's where we're at. That has the detail, Will, what you're referring to. I was going through this too. So it appears that the calendar invitation. Oh, no, not the calendar.
Well, this was the only other thing in the log is what we're saying.
See, and that's interesting, right? Because there's okay, so the log that you have shows an email sent from the Hathaway email account at 11, you know, the whatever time that is, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
Probably like 3 hours before the email in
3
question.
hours before, so a full 3 hours before the second email with a different client type.
Correct.
I mean, that's 3 hours of not having any email history and we've, you know, Fran, you know, received the calendar invite in there. I understand that wasn't in the artifact that you had. But that to me seems like a pretty big gap in.
I don't know what the user's email activity is
Yeah,
in sending.
okay. But you were looking at the file that you were looking at to pull the message trace events wouldn't necessarily, tell me if I'm understanding this, would it necessarily reflect all of the emails or calendar invites sent from one user account if they were being sent from multiple devices?
If it's going through their Office 365 account, then it would the emails would be reflected in the message traces.
So, okay, I thought that you didn't have that log, that those had been written over by Microsoft.
There's many logs. So we had message traces only going back a certain amount of time.
Okay, but during this period.
Other logs that would have shown more or other information, like the meeting invite stuff, those logs were not available.
Okay, so,
Yep.
got it.
Further questions?
So what is your recommendation? Is there something criminal here that we should look more into? What is, or we just need to make sure everybody's trained on how to use Outlook? The difference between now that we know is an application versus a browser.
Right. I mean, I guess, I honestly don't know enough about your internal environment to speak intelligently about it, right? But, in general, I mean, if first of all, shared accounts are a bad idea, right? There are situations where you have to have them, right? On a meeting machine that runs your Zoom sessions, maybe you have to have that. I don't know. I would have to find out more. But if you do have to have that shared account, then, you need to look at what the risks are, which you already know, what one of them is, and say, what are the controls we can put into place? So that if the only purpose of that shared account is to activate your Zoom session, then controls should be put into place that there is no Outlook client on there. There is no browser. There is nothing else they need. And they don't have the shared account does not have credentials to install software, to reconfigure the computer, all those type of things, and that would prevent somebody from accidentally doing something that would create a problem. I mean, it's, honestly, it's no different than, a hotel computer. If you go to some hotel computers and depending on what you do on those computers, all of what you did is going to be in the artifacts on that computer, right? So you download files, you download information, and it probably is going to be a record of it. Kind of the same thing here. That's why you want to limit exactly what that shared account can do to safeguard it.
But it does sound like from what you're explaining about Microsoft, that it's in all likelihood, it's what I've, understood for the circumstances from the beginning, confirmed by Ian, as well immediately thereafter, and as the recipient of the, email, it was clearly a email problem happening. And it sounds like it's not, it could have happened that somebody logged in here, Ian and Jillian, to start the meeting, needed the Zoom multi-factor authentication. It can give you either an email or a text if you sign up. You got to go into your email, you click Outlook, and that is the accessing referenced in your report that somebody pressed an Outlook icon.
Correct.
Okay, and to confirm that there was no sign-on as documented, meaning no entry of someone's
Credential.
username
Yep.
and password as documented in Exhibit B at all on November 15th. Okay, so that Microsoft might work in such a way that you click on that icon, and if you have emails in your outbox somewhere,
It would be sent.
so let's say, for example, a user had 3 devices logged in at all times. And they had something in an outbox somewhere. Whether it's on this machine or whatever machine, but just simply clicking on, opening up Outlook, the program would automatically send an outstanding email and calendar invite.
If the email was in the outbox of the OST file
Right.
on this machine, it would be sent.
Right,
As soon as the program started, Microsoft, the Outlook application, oh, I got something in the the outbox, boom. send
Would
it.
that also be true of the calendar invitation? Would it also have to have been created on this machine?
Yes, because, yes,
And that makes a lot of sense to me based on additional facts. So, thank you.
No further questions. Given the time, I suggest that we come to public comment.
I just want to flag too, at some point, we can do it at another board meeting. I want to respect our time and focus the questions here. I do have additional follow-up questions with the board sometime for our IT director, manager, kind of next steps, but we can maybe just put a pin in that. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
thank you so much.
Is there anyone who would like to speak during public comment? You have up to 3 minutes. That is the rule for public comment.
Yeah, 3 minutes doesn't do justification to how much I could probably go over, so there's no chance I can get through everything.
I make a motion to give
No.
Ian
Yes.
5 minutes.
Yes, we need to.
Your fault.
I think Ian.
Drag us through this.
Ian has
You
been
don't last.
acting in good faith as a volunteer resident and has gone
We have-
above and beyond.
We have a lot of people who do great work as volunteers for the township, and we have rules for
Yeah,
public
but they're
comment.
not under
Okay,
investigation.
okay.
Neither is Ian.
I just want to
No,
say,
he's
I
not.
make a motion to hear Ian out for 5 minutes.
I support.
That's
We have
great.
motion, we have support,
Aye.
so please call the roll.
Flintoff, tonight, actually, per our rules of order, we're starting with Carrie. Carrie?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Riser? Absent? Hathaway?
No.
Palmer?
No.
Flintoff? Yes. Brazo?
It's 5 minutes, right?
Yeah,
I'll give him 5 minutes, yes.
thank you.
All right, we have-
Motion adopted 42.
That's all right. I'll chair the meeting. Thank you.
Oh,
5 minutes, please proceed.
Thank you. When you send an email, it's a little bit like a piece of post, okay? But it's a little bit more clever than a piece of post because every step it takes. So if I send a letter back to the UK, it might go to Detroit and then it might go to Cincinnati and it'll bop around, okay? An email is exactly the same, okay? It passes through what we call email servers. It's a transport client. And when you look at an email, you read it, but under the covers, there's a thing called a header, okay? Which is actually a record of where that particular email has traveled from and to, okay? And so I've never seen this email, so hands up, I've never seen it, okay? But I've seen plenty of other emails and I've read the email headers and they have a record of when they hit a server, what the server is and the date and time. And there's different time zones, so when you look at them, you have to really factor that in, okay? Not once have I denied that Outlook client was launched, okay? I literally told Will it was launched, okay? And the report, excellent piece of work, but I think it really misses the point of what actually happened. I mean, the email was launched mistakenly, and Gillian said, Will's email keeps launching. When you're trying to get a Zoom meeting up and running, it is nut job stressful because you need that two-factor authentication to get the Zoom going. You've got people relying on you. You're panicking. You're working really fast. That's why we get in here half an hour early to get that stuff kind of set up and done. The one thing in my mind that is really missing from this whole conversation is that outbox discussion. And I went and talked to Will on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to explain the hypothesis that I had, that there was an email that was sent on that email, on that particular computer, and that the message was sitting in the outbox. Now, why might that happen? That's the real question. Why might that happen? I don't know. But what I can tell you is if the computer doesn't have a connection to the internet for whatever reason, or Outlook was closed before it could send the message, That's where it goes, okay? We've talked about the OST file. That's what you get when you have Outlook web access or an Office 365 instance. There's another one called a PST file. There's two files, okay? You could get your hand on that file. It doesn't matter. I guarantee you that you will find nothing in there that corroborates any malintent to send an email, okay? Because the email was sent. Once the email was sent, it goes from the outbox message into the sent messages folder. It is no longer in the outbox. You won't find it in there. So, you know, I think that's a massive waste of time. What I do want to do is, in good faith, send to each of you the email that I sent to Will. Is it okay if I come up and just show what I'm doing? So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'll do it with you. I'm generally safe. I'm gonna forward this email, okay? And I'm gonna forward it to Township Board, okay? This computer is not connected to the network, okay? So I'm gonna hit send. I'm gonna pop up, and there it is, sitting in my outbox. Okay? Outbox.
Yeah, I'm familiar, because
All right.
the internet connection is not always great.
Right.
Outbox, one message, can't send it, okay?
Yep. Got it.
Outbox, one message, okay? That's all I'm gonna do,
You know,
all right? Later on tonight, I will reconnect to the internet. It's 6:55 PM, okay? When you get that message later tonight, every single timestamp will not be 6:55. It will be some other time. And that's, you can't, the trouble is you can look through the header, you can look at everything. You can't actually prove one way or another anything beyond the fact that you got the email. And that is the crux of the whole problem. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Ian, so much. Thank you for your patience.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment?
3 minutes, right?
Yes.
3 minutes, so everybody knows.
Good evening, Kathleen Brand, a very concerned Scio resident. Manager Parker, the board directed you to conduct an administrative review of the topic being discussed tonight. The board directed you to conduct interviews. During that meeting, you even said you would be conducting interviews. Now, some questions to be asked should be, Hathaway stated in an email to Rob Pattinson on November 28th that he conducted discussions with the manager and IT director before he filed a police report. Is that true? Ms. Barker, you can answer that question tonight. And the same for Chris Bailey. Did he talk to you before he filed a police report? Hathaway stated he was told by the sheriff the police report was sent to the prosecutor. Now, that's not been my experience with the sheriff. So does Hathaway know somebody in the prosecutor's office? Or does he know somebody who knows someone in the prosecutor's office? Mr. Reiser decided not to tell the board he was interviewed by the sheriff. Why did he choose to do this? These are the kinds of questions that get to the heart of this, because the ultimate question will be, and if it takes legal action to do that, will be resident supporting. Did Mr. Hathaway file a false police report? Has he defamed a member of the board? You can get those answers by doing an administrative review that you were asked to do, not a digital forensic review. Please finish this, stop wasting money, but let's find out if he filed a false police report. We would be getting somewhere.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Everybody, I won't repeat some of the things that have been repeated before me, but just a thought about cost and not only monetary cost to the nice gentleman who produced a very good report with information again available to him, as well as Attorney Fink's time that she's billed us for, and rightfully so on this. We're spending staff time, Andrew Parker's time, Mr. Bailey's time, all of your time, all of our time looking into this. I'm not saying it shouldn't be looked into, but there's a question of how deep should we go into something before we're spending tens of thousands of equivalent dollars and hours to solve a problem that maybe really wasn't a problem in the first place. That doesn't even look at some of the potential legal implications. I mean, there's been people that are very highly tensioned here tonight, and I don't know if they have a legal case or not. I'm not a lawyer. But just thought. So here's the positive things that I think we can at least take out of what we've seen so far. I would follow the gentleman's recommendations of the report. They make sense. We shouldn't have a shared user on a computer if we can avoid it. Hopefully. I mean, yeah, we may have a little bit of an increased cost from having some more Microsoft licenses. So each person who should be operating Zoom has their own standalone user. Fine, no problem. Just maybe some yearly training around cybersecurity, not only, not clicking on links that we shouldn't be clicking on, but logging out of computers, setting up an automatic policy that's something Mr. Bailey can work with you on as far as whether you want 10 minutes, 15 minutes, what time increment, but if somebody's not using a device or a computer, session should be closed out and ended. Pretty simple and something that should hopefully be able to be implemented relatively soon. Ultimately, I'd look at what the sheriff's office has, if it is something, if it isn't something. I mean, I would think after 3 or 4 months, if it went to the prosecutor's office, if that's really where it is, they should hopefully have an answer about what they view on it right now. I don't know. Once again, just thoughts. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment?
Evening. Hi, my name is Renee Klubeck. My husband David is here with me. It'll take probably 1 minute since we're on timelines. We are property owners and residents here at Scio Township. Believe it or not, after 30 years, we've never been to a meeting. We picked a doozy, didn't we? Well, thank you. And all I wanted to say is we're interested more in what's happening in our township. Obviously, we're retired and we have more time to do that. But I just would like to mention that it would be helpful, I think, coming in as simply a resident. I look at the flyer, I read my little flyer before I came tonight and whatnot. I think it would be extremely helpful since this seems to be a fairly serious subject. Perhaps I'm not aware. Is the report available to the public? Is it online? Is it?
It's
Okay.
online and
Okay.
part of this meeting packet.
I didn't understand that. We're a little new at this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We should have figured that out ahead of time. We didn't. And also just to let you know that since we're talking IT, the sound is difficult. And I think many of you might say, I'm old, but I'm not having hearing problems. It's sometimes hard to hear what's being said. So I just thought I would mention that. Several comments, we were unable to really understand what was being said. So I just thought I would say thank you for everybody's time, and we'll do our best to read more about this and be good citizens in Scio Township, because it's not an easy job. We appreciate all of you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. And we'll work on the sound issue. I'll speak louder.
I think you all know, but I'll repeat. David Reed, Scio Township. I just have an observation and a question. Observation. This whole fiasco could have been avoided if the supervisor had signed out of his Outlook account every time he used the public computer to check his email. Better yet, don't use the public computer to check your email. But if you insist on doing it, sign out. Second question, and this is directly to the supervisor, had Trustee Reiser or Trustee Brazeau accidentally hit Outlook on that public computer and sent your email, Mr. Hathaway, I'm talking to you. Sure you are. Would you have accused them, taking their name to the sheriff, or just because it happened to be Trustee Carey? Of course, this looked like a political opportunity for you. So it's a blatant attempt on you to besmirch one of your team members.
Thank you, David.
there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment? If there's no one else present who would like to speak during public comment at this time, is there anyone participating remotely who would like to?
Hey, look it up.
If you're interested, please raise your Zoom hand. All right, first off, we've got Jonathan Greenberg, followed by Pam Boyd. Jonathan Greenberg, you're on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jonathan Greenberg from Green Mountain Circle. Yeah, so I'm just going to quickly rehash that for like 6 or so meetings, I've been telling everyone this is a nothing burger with stupid. The nothing burger is the accusations that were made to the sheriff. The stupid cheese is the part where Will leaves his sign on a public computer, but we've already established that in this meeting. It was ridiculous from my perspective as a 30-year IT professional to have an investigation of an olive and only focus your attention on the pimento. Will, your digital investigation that's cost us all this money, your giddy, oh, I think I got one of my trustees who I dislike, your little game here, you cost us a lot of money. And yet when you actually did the investigation and spent the money on our fine attorney Fink and the wonderful work from the N1D lab, it was all unnecessary. You received an email from Ian the next morning explaining what happened. You at that point ran off, spoke to one of your cadres, not Joyce, not all the people you said you spoke to, and can prove that you spoke to one of your pals. You got all giddy like a little schoolgirl who's got something cut out on someone else, and you ran to the sheriff and you made a false police report. You knew what happened, yet you willingly made a false police report. And if no one follows up on that, yeah, you can thank Jack, you can thank your pal, but we're coming. We're going to make sure that you and your friends actually pay for crimes that you commit. And you committed one, and that's your future. Enjoy, pal.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next
Is there
up,
anyone else who would
is
like to
Pam.
speak during public comment?
Will, I'm calling on you.
Well, I'm calling on, but thank you. Is there anyone else?
I said who was next in the queue is Pam Boyd, followed by Rob Pattinson. Pam?
Thank you, Pam Boyd. Supervisor Hathaway, I'm back and you are being rude. Some words come to mind of this debacle pertaining to Supervisor Hathaway: idiotic, uneducated, overreactive, vindictive. I asked for you, Supervisor Hathaway, to repay the township for the cost of this cluster. It should never, ever, ever have gotten to this point, and this is shameful, and this totally falls into your lap. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Next up is Rob Pattinson, followed by Paula's iPhone. Rob?
Thank you. Rob Pattinson, Scio Township. I have 27 questions tonight about the report. I have to completely abandon them because opening comments were canceled. So I had to rewrite my public comments. Here they are. Based on your previous behavior, Supervisor Hathaway, I believe I now understand what happened. You made an innocent bonehead mistake. That's fine. You then tried to manipulate the situation to your advantage by weaponizing the township's response and intended to damage a colleague and a resident. You should drop to your knees and beg forgiveness from Ian and Jillian Carey. And you should thank Ian for his flawless, unimpeachable integrity. And you should thank him for saving your ass. If access to all of your emails was available, you would likely be in very big trouble right now. You also owe the township repayment for every expense associated with this fiasco. You owe trustee Carey for all of her legal expenses from your malicious actions. You should resign in shame. You should resign tonight. Mariah Fink, you were totally out of line earlier tonight invoking the disturbance clause of the rules of order. This meeting has been manipulated by the supervisor to hide the truth. Ian Hubert has every right to defend himself from this fiasco. This investigation was designed to fail. The supervisor owes the Board of Trustees an explanation for why he acted independent of the board and never told anyone for months that the investigation was over. Just like you manipulated the investigation, you have manipulated this meeting tonight. I cannot begin to express how unethical, shameful, and disgusting this debacle has been. And anyone who stands with this fiasco should be ashamed of themselves. Every single member of this board ought to be outraged at the behavior of our supervisor. I again say, you should resign in shame. You should resign tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Next up is Paula Cloverson. Paula?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. Thank you for taking my comments. I think a resignation would be a good idea. That wasn't going to be my comment, but Supervisor Will Hathaway has cost us a lot of money as taxpayers and also personally. I can't get over his blocking freedom of information. That should tell everybody everything about him. His going out in the hallway before taking a vote to try to manipulate votes. I have not, I'm just exasperated with this individual. He has no ethics in his body. Maybe you should have just signed out of your email and that would have been it. These kinds of things sometimes happen, but I think we all need to ask the question, why did you run to the sheriff? I think that question, when you had a letter or an email and a discussion with Ian Hubert, who knows quite a bit about computers, and you're not going to run for supervisor, but you should not be voted in for trustee at all. You are an embarrassment to yourself. And I'm just disgusted with the township, period, allowing you. And I hope you get in some legal trouble for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Any other interested public? Please raise your Zoom hand. Okay, I see none. Well,
I have something to say. So this is from November 28th board meeting. Hathaway responded to questions as to why he had contacted the county sheriff regarding this matter. He had worked first with the township manager and IT director. The township attorneys had also been party to communications. He had also spoken with Ian Hubert, who had tried to discover what went wrong. You did not have this discussion with Ian Hubert. He sent you an email. You had a discussion way past by Thanksgiving. Okay, the other thing is township attorneys. I pulled the Foster and Swift invoices. You did not have a discussion with Homey, but you didn't have a discussion with the Finks either. So also IT Chris and manager Parker had said, oh, there's something here, go to the sheriff. You are implicating these people to say something that they didn't say. This is wrong. Okay, here's this. 5:57, I left my house. It shows on my security cameras. 6:02, I logged in that door. It is in our computer system. 6:04, I come in here. Oh, this is when Ian left his home at 6:04. I come in here to log in because at the DDA meeting 2 days before, the residents couldn't get in and were throwing a huge fit, justifiably. So I didn't want the same thing to happen at RAC. I happen to be a trustee and the chair of the Road Advisory Committee. I wanted to make sure that our residents could get in here and attend this meeting. I log in at 6:06 and 45 seconds to Zoom. It sends me a verification email. So I go to Outlook to log into rack chair at Scio Township. But all of a sudden, there is Will Hathaway's email account pops open. I'm trying to log out, it keeps popping open because you can't log out. I didn't know that. Ian comes in and I'm freaking out. Oh my God, we've got this meeting to start. So at 6:08, there was an email that I didn't know about until John Reiser the next day said somebody criminally trespassed into your account. There needs to be a criminal investigation. So 6:08, that's when the email, so in 2 minutes from what you said to the newspapers, trespassing into your account, and also what you said to residents, that I was searching for emails. In fact, John Reiser said that to me the next morning too. Somebody was searching through emails. Yeah, they went back 16 months to find an email within 2 minutes. But no, you didn't talk to anybody, you went to the sheriff. That's an abuse of power, and it's an abuse of taxpayer funds. You're just disgusting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brings us to the end of our special meeting. Is someone ready to make a motion to adjourn?
I just want to note, I assume we'll regroup and have follow-up at a future meeting. Okay, thank you.
So is someone ready to make a motion to adjourn? Moved by Brazeau, support by Palmer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Let's take a 5-minute break before we start our regular.
I'm gonna go see Mr.